Hey everyone, it's Anglos and Paddy from Just Star Trek, and today we're going to be talking about our review of the first few episodes. I think we've reached the halfway point of Star Trek Picard. And so I guess, Paddy, my first question to you is, we've had the first, 5 episodes now?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I really like it. I think it's the best Star Trek that's been done in a very, very long time. I think they've really thought about it. They've tied it in really well with the Next Generation. There's lots of little Easter eggs in there for us as fans to see. Sorry I didn't bring any Tranya today to go with your lovely top, but of course that goes back to the original series. I think was it the Corbinite Maneuver?
Yeah.
When the little man about that high came out. Didn't they have somebody with like a really bad, sort of horrible, stretched, scream type face?
Yeah, I think that was it was an artificial thing. Yeah.
So yes, that's good. And that was. And did you see? They had a Quarks.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
and also Quark was mentioned as well when he was dealing with the Breen crisis.
Yeah.
With the captain of the ship, Rios.
That's Stardust City Gig, if you haven't watched it.
I like your little hat there, Paddy.
This is in honour of all the fancy dressing and the grand hats that Picard wore.
Indeed.
I don't know, it doesn't sound French, does it?
It really doesn't, no.
It started French.
French
Goodness
Irish.
knows where it went after that.
So okay, I know you're a very passionate Next Generation fan. You also like Discovery, and you obviously clearly like Picard.
Yeah.
My view on it, Paddy, it started off really well. So I enjoyed the first 3 episodes, and then it kind of went into a little bit of a tangent, which I'm hoping they're going to dig themselves out of, or find a way forward. So what do I mean by that exactly? So episode 1, we had it was great to see the Enterprise D. They really teased us with a beautiful shot of the Enterprise D. You had Data there. 10 forward. It was great. It was almost like being back at home again. You accepted that Picard was nearly 100 million years old as he's being portrayed, and it was great to see him back again, and it was good to see a plot of such, and we kind of get an idea of where it's going. Second episode, we have the F-bombs being dropped, which we're not prudes, but somehow I just don't think it belongs in Star Trek. I know we live in modern times and everything is gritty and dark, but I just think that Star Trek is a family kind of show. Now, I know there are exceptions where there have been some swear words in the past, but it just seems a bit...
That came in Discovery, really, didn't it?
It did, and I just don't think it really belongs in that quality of Star Trek. Anyway, and then episode 3, the build-up, slowly Picard's building up his Star Trek Avengers team, and then episode 5. Now, episode 5, for me, was a bit of a disappointment. And I'll tell you the reason why, Paddy, because I know you're curious about this, because you were a fan of the episode. It wasn't all bad, but I found the way that Picard is being portrayed at the moment is it's almost like he's inconsequential. If he wasn't there, it wouldn't make much of a difference anyway. No matter what he says or what he does, for example, when he speaks to Seven at the end and tells her, spoiler alert, guys, murder's wrong, all this kind of stuff, be the better person. She goes, yes, you're right. Oh, I'm just going to borrow these phaser rifles and go down and just murder a few people. And you just think, well, you might as well have not bothered, Captain or Admiral, because everyone seems to be telling him off or putting him in his place, and he just seems to be inconsequential. And I think that it's a bit sad, really, because we remember Captain Picard to be this great man who has command of people, ships. He's done so much within the Federation, and now he's just been sidetracked. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's a bit like going to a gig. I think it always starts off strong, doesn't it? And then they get to the midpoint and they sort of calm everyone down, and then they build to the finish and the encore. I feel this was more of a 7 of 9 episode, really. I do hope that she survives her little fun and games at the end.
Yeah. What did you think of 7 of 9?
I really liked her. I did, and it was very sad. You talk about bloods and gore. The start sequence, with poor Icheb on the bench, with Bajal, is it? Bajal over him doing the operation.
Oh. Who knows?
I couldn't even put contact lenses in my eyes, so watching that was horrible.
Do you think that was gratuitous? Do you think that was something?
I think it's the reality. If you're harvesting Borg parts of a humanoid, and they are embedded, sadly, it's not a laser scalpel, is it? It's sort of pretty much getting in.
Could it have been hinted at as opposed to seeing such an explicit scene? I mean, I know a lot of fans are quite upset by this, and it is so subjective. There's no right or wrong answer here, but a lot of fans have said, well, how can I show this to my children?
Well, I mean, if you think about it in reality, they're harvesting Borg parts. So it's not going to be done like in a hospital in nice clean conditions. It's an illegal activity, I would imagine, even out where they are now on Free Cloud. I don't know why I just didn't go call it Facebook Cloud, just to be done with it, really. And it's so that is, and the reality is that's what would happen. But the question you've asked is, should they have shown it? I don't know. I think it added, in one sense, to the mercy killing that Seven had to do to Icheb, which essentially was almost her surrogate child, and the pain that she felt, and that built through the episode where she just wanted revenge. And I think the interaction with Picard, where she said, we're both the same in that we've been Borg. Did you regain your humanity? And and sort of said, well,
not all of it.
Not all of it. And I think, the desire for revenge, obviously, Picard had a massive desire for revenge, didn't he?
Star Trek 8.
In the movie. What was it, Insurrection?
First Contact.
First Contact, yeah. And the stowaway basically
brought him back down to
reality. And so I don't think maybe Seven's had that. Maybe
I think she had that with Janeway.
Yeah.
I think she had that with Janeway. I thought Janeway was a very calming influence on her compared to season 4, compared to the end of season 7 of 9. I don't know, Paddy. I just saw 7 of 9, and I just thought to myself, it's great to see you back. She's looking beautiful as ever. She's a very talented actress, if we're going to talk about the acting side of things. So it's no fault of the actual person.
She's moved into the knitwear.
Yeah, knitwear as opposed to the silverware.
Silverware, yeah. Silver suit.
But I just felt that the writing was quite weak on this one. And it did remind me of Discovery, and it did remind me that they're being gratuitous, and they're being violent and gory and dark and gritty. Yeah. Because that's what the cool kids do. The Game of Thrones, all of those kind of dark, cutting-edge things, which suits them perfectly. But is it really appropriate for Star Trek to be doing this? Of all the times when we need a TV show to be inspiring and uplifting and positive and show us a great future, now's the time to do it. But what do we get? We get we get swearing. Okay, not the end of the world. We can live with it, just. We got lots of gratuitous violence. There's no positivity. The main actor, Picard himself, he's sidelined. He's just an old guy. I don't know. I don't know. I would say he was sidelined. He was certainly not the focus of that episode. That episode was more about Seven. You see it with the Admiral dressing him down. Yeah. You see it with Raffi dressing him down. Yeah. No one seems to be respecting this guy anymore. Now I understand he's old, but I don't think it's to do with that. I mean, as admirable, I use that pun, the rescue of the Romulans was. The reality is that was a massive undertaking, and then obviously the synth attack on Mars, and the Conclave of 8. So what's that all about? Well, and there does seem to be collusion between the Federation and the Romulans, in some fashion. Whether it was a plan to suppress the Romulans completely. No Klingons yet, really. Well, it's probably the makeup issues they're having between Discovery and... but that's another discussion altogether. And the Breen, where are the Breen? Yeah, indeed. They're never around when you need them. So, Paddy... but I just think that it's... and Picard is an older person in reality, and he does look frail. I was sort of hoping that was a character device at the start to show that he was an older man, and obviously he's got his terminal diagnosis now. But I would have, and he can't go jumping around doing heroic things. Not that Riker ever allowed him to do it in the first place. But I don't know. I think of the 5 episodes, that Stardust City gig was the least
nicest one I enjoyed, or the least enjoyable, but I still enjoyed it. But it did feel like a bit of a lull. It's like, you know, let's get on to finding out a bit more about Data and his offspring, they might not be the only ones. And unfortunately, poor Bruce is shuffled off his mortal coil at a very inappropriate moment.
Bruce Maddox, right? Okay, so they didn't use the same actor.
No.
That was
Is he still alive?
I think so.
Okay.
I hope so. So spoiler alert.
Sure, he hopes so too.
Yeah, his family hopes so as well. So he didn't quite make it to the end of the episode, alas, because the doctor decided she was going to kill him in atonement, so she could be being
atonement for what though?
But it just seems really quite a feeble thing. And one thing, probably the weakest scene in all of that episode, Paddy, was when Raffi went down and met her son. Yeah. Now, I thought, hopefully the writers aren't going to go down the cliche road of miserable and angry son and offspring and neglect. But sure enough, there they were. And we had this almost nonsensical scene where Raffi and her son and her future grandchild, and it's just, everything's dark and miserable. I hoped that Raffi would beam down, meet her son, they'd hug, and actually it would be a breath of fresh air, a bit of positivity. But no, we've got to have contention, we've got to have forced drama, and it's like, guys, give it a rest. Yeah.
Well, give it a rest. I suspect Facebook Free Cloud, it is a bit like Blade Runner. Mm-hmm. You know, it's that sort of place. Yeah. You know, it's where all the no-hopers, all the sort of the criminals and all the sort of the garbage of the galaxy sort of gather. So it's not going to be a pretty place. Although the hospital did look quite pretty, or the doctor's place, wherever they were, that looked quite good. Obviously, they're very much into their healthcare.
So 7 of 9's a lesbian now. So it obviously didn't work out with Chakotay. Not quite sure what happened there. Okay. Obviously, his vision quests weren't strong enough for her. Hopefully, Chakotay's still alive. Yeah. And that's what I wanted to say. So I've just remembered something that I wanted to say, which was really bugging me all day. Mm-hmm. So a friend of mine, I will only call him John, he said to me the other day...
It's actually called Roger.
Yeah. He said, 5 years ago, or even 10 years ago, if you had said to him that we would get a Picard-centred show with Jonathan Frakes directing and 7 of 9 featuring, he wouldn't have believed you. He would have thought this is beyond the best of his wildest dreams. And yet, look how disappointing for me and for a few others the show was. Now, I'm hoping, Paddy, that this will just be a temporary lull and we'll pick up in episode 6 and beyond, because we've still got to meet Riker and Troy and hopefully some of the other guys. And maybe they've got a 2-season arc or 3-season arc they've already written, and this is just one of the low episodes.
Well, they have obviously signed up for a second season.
Yeah.
So clearly, I mean, I suspect this Data thing is going to be the thread, you know, and the children.
Do you think we'll see Data again?
I think we might.
I think we will.
And there seems to be some implication that Maddox and Union Singh, you know, had some. Well, he used his information, didn't he? And because he'd actually died, hadn't he? So, you know, for me, who got to Jurati? You know, is she actually a Romulan agent? You know,
is she a synth?
Or is she a synth?
Is she being played
I thought
by...
that early doors. I think after the first episode, I said, I think we'll be seeing a bit more of Bruce Maddox.
Yeah.
I would have liked a bit more of him than we did see.
Yeah.
But
or maybe she's being coerced by Admiral O.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing, because of course she had the visit, didn't she?
Yeah, of course, with her funky sunglasses.
Oh yeah, they were very cool.
I actually quite like them. There's a bit of an uproar online about...
Is she Vulcan or Romulan?
She's Vulcan.
Ah, but is she? Because, as we know,
Paddy, they don't all...
Romulus is just part of the Vulcans, split off.
Yeah, they are cousins.
On their merry way with all their emotions.
So one of them, quite a few people on the old Twitter sphere, they said that Canon says, and this is always a very dodgy road you go down because you should be a little bit flexible in life, that Vulcans have 2 or 3 eyelids and she shouldn't have had sunglasses. So my reply to that, Paddy, is she just had corrective eye surgery and she needed some glasses because she couldn't handle the light quite yet. So it's a simple explanation. Don't get so worked up about it, guys. It's just not worth it. So overall, Paddy, I'm pleased with Picard up to say episode 3.5, 3, 4, I'm going to keep watching because obviously I'm a fan. I want it to get better. I'm hoping episode 5 will just be a negative blip because it can't all be great episodes. And for the rest of the season, it will be a little bit more upbeat, a little bit more positive. We're going to review the rest of the season as it happens. What's your hopes and predictions for the rest of the season?
Well, there's this element about the good and the bad, isn't there? The sort of the destroyer. And we know that the destroyer is on the artifact, the Romulan cube. We know that the Romulans who were captured in some way must have collapsed the cube and the matrix and disconnected it. So there's obviously something there, isn't it? I do think I've got possible feeling that Jurati is actually a synth herself. She's quite quirky and in a jokey sort of way, which you wouldn't normally associate with a synthetic life form. But it was Data's always searching for that. There was that image of Maddox and her baking cookies.
Oh yeah. That little video.
I was thinking, let's face it, a synth is a cookie. It's got lots of different ingredients. You put them all together, and hopefully, it all turns out. I've never eaten a synth, but I do like cookies, chocolate ones.
Well, Maddox ate a synth, and look where that got him.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm very positive still. I think it was, as I said, the least enjoyable of the 5 episodes I've seen. I thought the second episode was particularly strong. And I think there's a lot of background filling in going on because they've obviously convoluted a very intricate story with lots of different storylines. Why? Maybe it's just to sort of get the 7 and 9 in to keep the Next Generation crew link.
But it's a shame we never found out how Picard. I mean, Picard's not ignorant. He would have known about 7 of 9. Would have known. He was friends with Admiral Janeway. Yeah. He would have been aware of Voyager. Yeah. But it's a shame they didn't develop that relationship a little bit. I felt that was a wasted opportunity.
Well, he did send them off into the Delta Quadrant by accident, didn't he? Because he was at Deep Space Nine when he sent them to hunt the Maquis, and then they sort of flipped away, didn't they? Do you remember at the very start of Voyager?
I don't think Picard was there at the time.
Yeah, I think didn't Picard turn up at Deep Space Nine, and he was the one that gave Janeway the orders to go after the...
No. So he turned up when he gave Benjamin Sisko his orders to start being the commander of the station.
Ah, was it?
But then they returned again for the second time when Worf was after redemption, and they were after some information from an alien, which was played by James Cromwell, who played Saffron Cochran in Star Trek 8. Very distinctive actor. Anyway, so
we do digress.
So yeah, just quickly, Paddy. I'd personal wish list for me: seeing more Federation starships. I would love to see Picard on a bridge of a starship, whatever.
Right. Well, I don't think you're going to see many more Federation starships because they're going to be heading off into Romulan territory, so that ain't going to happen. And they're out there in the sort of the Badlands, or whatever they call it, with the furnace.
Disassembled neutral zone, I think, is an absolute mess at the moment.
Yeah. So you just can't get anyone to clean up these days. Federation aren't interested.
Well, one thing I just want to say, because we're being led. I know Patrick Stewart was involved with the story writing, the ideas and things like that, and he wanted to reference in an oblique way about the Brexit situation, about Donald Trump and all this kind of thing. And an interesting article I read this morning about what are the causes of these things? Is it poverty? Is it nationalism? Is it racism? All these things. And I can see why, the story kind of allegorizes real life with Trump and poverty and all these kind of things, and we're seeing.
Star Trek's always been very good at that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's like Praxis blowing up, which was essentially just
Chernobyl.
It was the collapse of the Soviet Union and that sort of thing, and
So Star Trek is very good at that.
Yeah,
we agree on that. But what I don't quite make the leap, and I wish that writers would be a little bit more consistent, is that the last time we saw the Federation Starfleet, it was this utopia. I guess everyone had replicators. There's no poverty, everyone lived well, there's no sense of money like we know it today.
But not the shipyards, because they got destroyed.
Yeah, forget the shipyards.
All the other utopia bits.
Yeah, everything else was perfect.
Apart from the shipyards.
But now we're being led to believe that poverty is a bad problem, We see people living on Earth in these like caravan shacks. I know Raffi was living in one, and it's
I
like
think that was her choice, though, wasn't it?
probably.
Yeah.
But it was hinted that you lived in this great nice chateau Picard, and I'm out here. Well, you don't have to, Raffi. The Federation isn't poor, but it's almost like there's a two-tier system going on. You look at Mars, for example, and all the silly stereotypical things. Oh, our replicators are rubbish. Oh, the synths this, and everything was poor. The poor little miners. And I never got that impression from Starfleet by looking at Next Generation, the original series, DS9, Voyager.
It's probably a more realistic view of utopia.
Probably,
Yeah.
but it's just making that leap, and it's like the writers are just assuming that that's what we should believe now. But it's for us original fans of the 90s and before. This was a perfect little paradise. Yes, there were always problems for sure, but there wasn't this two-tier system, and I find that quite difficult to reconcile at the moment. But maybe 20 years is not that short a space of time in the Federation for these kind of problems to happen.
All great civilizations, their growth through the sort of the fantastic years and decades and centuries, and then their collapse. Roman civilization, for example, the Greek civilization. They all come and go, and obviously the Federation's had a little bit of bother, wasn't it? So,
And maybe 20 years is enough time in the writers' minds anyway to deteriorate this once great organisation to it starting to fragment.
and it is a Star Trek episode based around a character as opposed to a ship or a space station. So that's a different approach, isn't it? So, they are naturally focusing on this particular character, and I'm not a script writer or whatever, but you've all got to have their problems, haven't they, that they've got to face, their demons, and that's what creates the drama. And obviously, of course, at the end there'll be absolution for Picard because he'll no doubt be proved right.
Well, I'm hoping that we'll see all this. We're seeing all this negativity, which I never really think belongs in Star Trek. I don't. I think Star Trek should be this positive view of our future, something to aspire to, something to inspire us today of how the future could be. That's what Gene Roddenberry wanted for us. I feel the writers have maybe dropped the ball a little bit on this one episode. I'm still going to give them the rest of the season, see what happens. But my personal wish list, going back to it, Picard on a ship, ambassador, consultant, whatever we're going to call him, with some of the original crew, Riker, Troy, Worf maybe. I'm sure Worf is going to come back. I'm sure there were hints at the EMH, the Doctor from Voyager. I want to see Admiral Janeway back. I'd love to see her. Kate Mulgrew is such a fantastic actress. I'd love to see her come back, and I'd like her to be the high-standing moral character that she was in Voyager, because looking at it from what the Picard writers are doing to some of our favourite characters, we'll probably end up having her as a cigar-smoking, spitting, total tyrannist. That's what.
Well, Janeway didn't mind bending a few rules, did she?
For sure, but
I remember as an admiral, she turned up in a very funky armour-plated shuttle once, having broken many rules to help out.
But it was always for the better good, right?
Yeah, well, they always say that. They always say that.
That's what all tyrannical leaders.
Absolutely. All people with grand ideas.
So overall, then, Paddy, I know we reviewed halfway through Discovery, and we're doing the same for Picard, and we'll continue doing it. What would you give the season out of 10 so far for Picard?
I would give it an 8.5 at 9, stroke 9, somewhere in between there.
Okay, that's really good.
Yeah. I'm guessing slightly lower than you.
I would give it a 6.5, 7 up to episode 4.
Okay.
Episode 5 would really.
I remember after the first one, you were really.
Loved it.
You were having to eat humble pie.
Not necessarily, because I was optimistic. Discovery's another.
Available in all good replicators, unless you're on Mars. So.
Episodes 1 and 2 were fantastic, but it's just slowly. Just let's get away from this Discovery darkness. We don't need that. We've already got that in Discovery. Let's focus on Picard being a little bit more uplifting, a little bit more inspirational. That's all we ask. So, guys, that's Paddy and I's view on things. I hope you enjoyed it. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are on the halfway point of season 1 of Picard. I'm grateful. I know I've been rattling on a little bit on the negative side of things. I don't mean to, but it's just I care so much about it.
I still feel your tears on my shoulder.
But we would love to hear your views on things,
Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
we look forward to your comments. So I've been Angelos,
I've been Paddy.
and see you again on our next review of Just Star Trek. Live long and prosper, guys.
Don't lose the faith.